freedom of expression in the field of the creative. I don't have to explain to you the threats that freedom of expression is facing right now. We also know what is happening to education all over the country, the kind of attacks that are coming on education. And without freedom of expression, there is no education. Without questioning, without debating, without disagreeing, there is no education. And it is in this background that we thought that given what is going on in the field of education, especially in university and college education, where a large number of students who have to be inquisitive, who need to ask questions, who are seeking answers, that space is getting restricted phenomenally. So we thought that we will start this lecture series and we will invite eminent scholars cutting across divisions, across disciplines, and we will open this floor for exchange of ideas, questions, and maybe helping satisfy or at least provide a direction in which these questions can be asked. We began with a talk by Rajni Palriwala, who was former head of the Department of Sociology in Delhi University, and we began with a lecture by her on the politics of love. And then we had Professor Prabhat Patnaik speaking on the rise of neo-fascism. Then we had Gohar Raza speaking on myth and science. And today we have Professor Irfan Habib, who will be speaking. Please. And some of you who are not aware of his work, I'll give you a short introduction. He is a scientist, but his work aside from science is also on Bhagat Singh. Remarkable amount of research, 2 books on Bhagat Singh, and one on his life and one on his writings. And Gohar, who spoke before him a fortnight ago, is somebody who has worked with Irfan Habib. Together, both of them are scientists. And the only documentary on the life of Bhagat Singh was made by Gohar Raza, essentially relying on the research that Irfan Habib has done. Irfan was born in 1953, is an Indian historian of science and public intellectual. He was the former Abul Kalam Azad Chair at the National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration. His intellectual collaboration with Dhruv Raina as historians at the National Institute of Science, Technology and Development Studies, NISTADS, in the 1990s culminated in the publication of a series of research articles collected as a volume titled Domesticating Modern Science, which was published in 2004, on the cultural redefinition of modern science in colonial India. They also edited a volume together on Joseph Needham, Situating the History of Science 1999, the section on science in 20th South and Southeast Asia, 20th century South and Southeast Asia, for volume 7 of UNESCO's History of Mankind project, and a reader on social history of science in India. As an author, his works have been subject to mostly positive critical reception. Irfan did his post-graduation in modern Indian history and went on to receive a doctorate on the ideology and program of revolutionaries in the 1920s freedom struggle. Habib taught at DAV College, Bulandshahr, Meerut University for 4 years before joining the National Institute of Science, Technology and Development Studies, New Delhi. He held the Abul Kalam Azad Chair at the National Institute of Educational Planning and Administration, New Delhi, during 2009 to 2016. Some of the works to which he has contributed or written on his own include Situating the History of Science, Dialogue with Joseph Needham, Domesticating Modern Science, A Social History of Science and Culture in Colonial India, To Make the Deaf Hear, Ideology and Program of Bhagat Singh and his Comrades, Social History of Science in Colonial India, Ijtihad, Jihad or Ijtihad, Religious Orthodoxy and Modern Science in Contemporary Islam, Indian Nationalism, The Essential Writings, Inqalab, Bhagat Singh on Religion and Revolution, and a biography of Maulana Azad. So you'll get an idea of the breadth of his work. And today he'll be speaking on Was Bhagat Singh only a nationalist? And it is essential to look at the way Bhagat Singh is being portrayed and presented, and serious efforts which started, I think, in the 1960s to present him as a saffronite. Despite all the life's work of Bhagat Singh, which militates against religious orthodoxy. So, without much ado, Irfan Habib.
Thank you, Sabha, for inviting me for this lecture series.
Please switch off your phones or put them on silent.
Let me also do this. As Suhail just pointed out, Bhagat Singh is someone who evokes huge interest among Indians, and rightly so. The sort of profile he had and the sort of contribution he had, surely he should be remembered by all Indians. But the problem is that most of us, not all of us, most of us want to remember him for his martyrdom, and we just want to remember him on one day, 23rd March 1931. That is the date he was martyred. And now lately we have started celebrating his birthday as well, which was not the case earlier. So 28th September is again the date we remember him. But that is not enough. That is my problem. You see, we are doing injustice with Bhagat Singh by just remembering him on these two dates and forgetting him during the rest of the year. Because for me, when I began thinking or planning to write on Bhagat Singh as my PhD, I came across, this is a beginning, how I got to work on him. I came across an article by Professor Bipin Chandra in a volume which was a volume published by Tinmurti, where he wrote a piece called The Ideological Foundations of Revolutionary Terrorists in the 1920s. And it was about 15 to 20 page article, and when I saw that while working in Tinmurti, I was quite surprised to read that somebody called Bhagat Singh, about whom one has heard as a great revolutionary who sacrificed his life for freedom, and that man actually has some ideas. He was not just a raw nationalist as most of us want to see him, because it's very comfortable to celebrate nationalism because you don't have to do anything in that. But if you talk about ideas, if you talk about ideology, if you talk about revolutionary program, then you have to work because you have to follow what he left behind. And this is something which struck me, and then I decided, okay, let me take these 15 pages forward and expand it into a book and explore further what Bhagat Singh stood for. Unfortunately, when I was doing it in late 1970s and early 80s, there was hardly anything available. Many documents which are now available which talk about Bhagat Singh's ideology, his vision, all that literature was not available during those days. Another interesting thing which I want to refer before I come to what he stood for, his prison notebook, which we all know now, which is published also. When I started working, this prison notebook I got as a typescript. Now, there was a Russian scholar called Mitrovich who came to India, met Bhagat Singh's brother who used to live in Faridabad, and this is a mystery even now, and I don't know why the family did it. His brother kept that diary with him, and that Russian scholar met him and said that, why are you sitting over this precious document? But he didn't agree to part with it. He said, you can sit here and take notes. So he typed, for 15 days, he typed that manuscript on his typewriter and took it with him to Russia. One Professor D.D. Kaushik, who used to teach Russian studies in JNU. So he used to go to Russia quite often. And he had some connection with my supervisor for my PhD. Professor Kaushik brought that typed photocopy with him, and my teacher shared that typed copy with me. So I was actually the first person to use Bhagat Singh's diary, prison diary, for the first time.
In India?
In India. It was not there in archives, it was not there in Tinmurti. So whatever references I have from the typescript of Bhagat Singh's, with the signature also in that and also. Anyway, so this was the beginning of my own engagement with Bhagat Singh's ideas. Now, when we talk of Bhagat Singh, let me begin by his life, his family, because that is essential to understand how Bhagat Singh became an ideologue. From where did he get these ideas? At a very young age. And I always do this, when I talk about Bhagat Singh, I always try to remind that Bhagat Singh was 23 years and few months when he left us. So he had a very short life. So whatever he wrote, so what I speak now, you should keep in mind that the man who wrote all this was 17-year-old when he wrote his first article, and so 17, 18, 19, 20, 2.5 years were spent in underground, hiding from the British police, and the rest of the life was spent in the prison. So he had a very short active life, free life. Despite that, he could find books, he could read, he could write, he could think under so much pressure. Now, his family, and this is what I thought I should begin with. Bhagat Singh was born in a family which had not only a nationalist background, but had an intellectual background, like his uncle Ajit Singh. And I wrote a piece during the farmers' protest 2 years back. Ajit Singh was someone who organized the first peasants' struggle in Punjab in 1907-08. And there was one Munshi, Sufi Amba Prasad, who was from Moradabad, UP. He was an Urdu journalist, and he joined Ajit Singh and Lajpat Rai, formed Bharat Mata Society, and that platform was created to fight against the British for the farmers' rights. Both of them were expelled from India by the British, and they were exiled. Sufi ji died in Iran, and Ajit Singh left for Europe. He spent all his life fighting for Indian freedom from outside India. Now, this is one member of the family. His own father was an active congressman. His another uncle, Swaran Singh, died in British prison of diabetes, of tuberculosis. So this is the background of the family. So Bhagat Singh imbibed the nationalist spirit and intellectual awareness at a very young age from his family. And that is the reason why he could write something at a young age of 17. And this is something which amazes me, when I read it. The title of the article was Universal Brotherhood. Bhagat Singh was 17 years at that time. And this was published in Hindi magazine, published from Calcutta, called Matwala. And I will not go into detail of that because I will just refer to it. What I find amazing when you read it, and I have included that in my collection in Kalam, he talks about universal brotherhood, begins with Vasudev Kutumbakam. The first line of the article is Vasudev Kutumbakam, which means that India believes in that we are one family, beyond division of caste, religion, race, etc. And then he goes on to say that we believe we have these nice things in our culture and in civilization, but do we actually believe in this? And I'm saying this, there's a young man of 17 who is trying to write on such a complex issue. It is not easy to write even now on Vishwa Bandhuta, that's what the title is in Hindi. And he says that how can you talk of Vishwa Bandhuta when you try to find enemy within? You want to find strangers within your own society. And this is so relevant even now, that we are othering people all the time in the name of language, in the name of caste, in the name of religion. And Bhagat Singh is writing about this in 1924. There's a year he published it. And so he writes in detail on why we should not do it. Now, we cannot create world brotherhood, Vishwa Bandhuta, without demolishing these distinctions based on religion, caste, language, etc. And then he goes on to write lots of other things. Now, someone who had some vision of like this, for him nationalism was absolutely not a flag waving idea, which is an American idea of nationalism. For him, nationalism had a content, had a certain definition, where distinctions at different level, at level of religion, caste, class, etc., have to dissolve. Only then you can talk of nationalism. Then he says, in this article only, that when we divide our own people in the name of so many categories, then what business do we have to actually ask the British to give us rights, to give us freedom, to give us concessions? Then we have ourselves discriminated against our own people. First we have to give up on that. So his definition of nationalism was, after you dissolve all these distinctions, then only you can talk of nationalism. So this definition of nationalism which we talk about today is so far away from what Bhagat Singh stood for. So this is how he begins in 1924 itself. Later on, in 1925-26, some people say 26, some records in the archive, some say 25, he tried to institutionalize this whole idea of struggle, revolutionary struggle, which he started in Lahore with his young friends, Sukhdev, Yashpal, Ehsan Elahi, who went to Pakistan after partition, then Bhagwati Charan Vora and so many others. All of them got together as young people in DAV College, Lahore, then National College, Lahore, and tried to establish a platform called Naujawan Bharat Sabha. And I am talking about this because this was a public platform where they used to organize meetings, and on those meetings also, and the manifesto of this Naujawan Bharat Sabha very clearly says that anyone who wants to become a member of this organization has to give up his identity based on religion, caste, language. You have to be Indian and you have to have just one single identity, your Indian identity. So this was one of the main principles of joining Naujawan Bharat Sabha. Then it organized, it had a huge network, and I am talking about this because it was in late 1920s that Congress party, which was the main political party fighting for freedom, had to associate with Naujawan Bharat Sabha. And I am saying this because how popular they were, and their ideas, their vision, the ideology I just shared with you. These ideas were shared by a large number of young people of Punjab, Western Uttar Pradesh, Rajasthan, and they were so popular that Congress had to associate with Naujawan Bharat Sabha in all their political meetings, because they realized that the young men were actually absent in most of the meetings, and these are all archival records. These are not my data. This is all there in the British records. So Congress organized these meetings jointly with Naujawan Bharat Sabha. So this is a credit which goes to Bhagat Singh and his associates, that they created this awareness among the youth, which was very short-lived, unfortunately, but it was there. Now in these meetings, and somebody asked me just now about the slogan Bande Mataram. Now one of the ideas which they floated, and Bhagat Singh particularly, he said that we should not raise these religious slogans which Congress used to do. And I am not blaming Congress. Congress party was trying to associate people from all religions. That was their strategy, that you use Jo Bole So Nihal, Sat Sri Akal, Naraya Takbir, Allahu Akbar, Bande Mataram, so that all these three major religions and religious communities identify themselves with the Congress movement. But Bhagat Singh said that this is not the way of actually bringing people together. You are reminding them that you are a Muslim, you are a Sikh, you are a Hindu by including such slogans. We should only have two slogans, which is Inqilab Zindabad and Hindustan Zindabad, and Workers of the World Unite, which has no religious connotation at all. So this was Naujawan Bharat Sabha's decision which they followed. Then Yashpal in his book Singhavalokan, because Yashpal actually became a Hindi writer also later on. He writes lots of things. One of the things which he mentions in his book about Naujawan Bharat Sabha is that on one occasion, some enthusiastic members of Naujawan Bharat Sabha organized social dinners, and halal and jhatka meat was cooked together, because there were Sikhs, there were Muslims, and just to blur this distinction, they tried to do something like this. So these were attempts which Bhagat Singh and his associates tried to make using the platform of Naujawan Bharat Sabha. The point is that if you talk of nationalism today, you should also try to understand that this nationalism had a certain definition. This nationalism was not just a raw nationalism which had no meaning. It had a meaning which was based on an ideology, on a vision of India, vision of independent India. Unfortunately, Bhagat Singh did not live to see that, but this was a vision which he had. He also believed that, and this is a part of Naujawan Bharat Sabha's manifesto also, that he envisages an India where 98% Indians have participation in the governance, not just 2% rich. And this he stressed again and again, that my India should be an India where 98% people are participants in governance and they are not mute spectators as they normally are. So this is something which one should remember about Bhagat Singh, because his martyrdom is not enough. You just keep talking about martyrdom, which is incomplete. We need to respect that, but that is an incomplete celebration of somebody like Bhagat Singh. He was like in today's India, see, these are one very important issue which needs to be raised today, is the whole issue of rationalism. And this is also important, when we look at Bhagat Singh and his writings. He wrote extensively on the issue of gender justice. Like, gender issue today is like, we talk about it all the time because we see so much injustice around on the gender issue. Similarly, when we talk of rationalism, Bhagat Singh, in his most iconic piece called Why Am I an Atheist, wrote that he says that his commitment to rationalism and critical thinking, he was not for a blind flag-waving nationalism, as I just pointed out, which the jingoists need to remember. His nationalism was embedded in the idea of progress, where there is scope for criticism, disbelief, and capacity to question everything of the old faith. And this is something which he writes in his Why Am I an Atheist. He writes elsewhere also. They don't accept anything which you get from your family, from society. Raise questions about everything before you accept. This is something which is so central to scientific thinking, that you don't have to really accept what comes to you. Raise questions about what you get and then accept, if you believe that you need to accept it. He was uncompromising on this when he said that mere faith and blind faith is dangerous, and these are his words. It dulls the brain and makes a man reactionary. A man who claims to be a realist has to challenge the whole of the ancient faith. If it does not stand the onslaught of reason, it crumbles down. So look at the young man. Well, he was just 22 when he is writing this, and he had such views. Now, these are things which we need to appreciate, because we need to understand that a young man of 21, 22 under so much pressure and so much fear for his own life could imagine, could write, could think on these lines. This clearly means that silencing rationalists can't be nationalism. If you kill a rationalist because he holds a rational view of the world, so you can't be a nationalist if you kill them. And we have seen how people have been killed in India in the past few years, just because they were talking of rationalism, they were talking of scientific temper, they were talking of critical imagination, they were trying to teach you to question. So all this is not accepted today. So if you don't accept it, then according to Bhagat Singh, you are not a true nationalist. Your nationalism needs to have space for all these issues, all these not defending of obnoxious religious practices be nationalism. And he was clear on that also, that you cannot defend obnoxious religious practices and call yourself a nationalist. So he was very clear on so many issues. Then in this Why am I an atheist? I will go back to other articles later on when I've come here to let me talk about that as well. Like why am I an atheist is, we know as the title indicates, it was a debate with God, with the existence of God. मैं नास्तिक क्यों हूँ? भगवान का अस्तित्व को question करना. That was the main idea behind the whole article. But that was not the sole idea. He talks about lots of other things in that piece. For example, and that is important in today's India. And he is writing this, what I am telling you, he is writing this about Mahatma Gandhi. He says that today lots of Indians accept the leadership of Mahatma Gandhi without questioning, without debating, without discussing. He says, I don't disagree that you should not follow Gandhi, but don't follow any leader blindly. Now, try to understand what he or she says, what he or she writes, how he or she thinks. And if you believe that what is being thought or what is being delivered, what is being said or what is being written is rational, is worth following, then you do that. So this is something which Bhagat Singh tries to teach. So all those who revere him and call him a great icon should also go and read what actually he left behind, the ideas he left behind. He didn't leave behind mere nationalism. He left behind a nationalism which had a definition, and that definition was very difficult to follow. That is why we just don't care to read what he left behind for us. We just ignore. We only remember his nationalism, his shahadat, which is very convenient. And I say this very often, that the British actually killed him once. We kill him every day by not following what he left behind for us. Because we are actually larger culprits than the British. So for us, the ideas which Bhagat Singh left behind are more precious. And his nationalism, the definition of his nationalism is more important. Then there are three things which are important in today's context, and especially in the context of nationalism. One is this whole idea of untouchability, which is so important today. And we have Ambedkarites, we see people talking of Phule, We keep hearing all sorts of things. We have Periyar in the south. They all talked about Justice Party. So all that is going on even now. Now, what Bhagat Singh did in 1928, he writes a piece because this is again a very important aspect of his life, that he began as a journalist. Because we have lots of freedom fighters who are either coming from the background of law or from journalism. Lots of people, including Maulana Azad, they all began as journalists. Because that was the opening they got to express their views against the British. So Bhagat Singh started writing at a very young age, and he began with Kirti. Kirti used to be one little paper fortnightly, which was brought out by Sohan Singh Josh, who was a leader of the Workers' and Peasants Party, the Communist Party, you can say not formally Communist Party, but obviously associated with socialist ideas. And Bhagat Singh joined that Kirti in Amritsar as an editorial assistant, and wrote quite a few pieces in 1928 particularly, and one of them was an article on untouchability. And he's devastating in his language. He says that what sort of India we are talking about. We claim to be great civilization, and we don't feel even ashamed that a dog can enter our kitchen, and a human being who belongs to a so-called lower caste can't even touch you. So this is what he says, and he then goes on, and he is actually so brave as a young man. He writes that, and he names Madan Mohan Malviya. He says that we have great Congress leaders, senior Congress leaders like Madan Mohan Malviya, who are leading a campaign against untouchability. They organize big meetings against untouchability. But if an untouchable goes on the podium and they hug him in public, they go back home and have a bath with their clothes on before they find themselves pure. So he's naming Madan Mohan Malviya in that piece, which needs courage for a young person like Bhagat Singh, and he goes public by writing this. So he was so firmly of the view that untouchability is something which is a bane for centuries in this country, and we need to fight against it. And there's a 4 or 5 page long article, and he writes lots of other things in that. Another interesting piece, again relevant in today's India, is on the press. And he says that what is this Indian print media, because there was no television or radio so much, it was only print media, that this press is so irresponsible in this country, and most of these our leaders have become politically bankrupt. They don't think the press, the idea of the press, the print, the responsibility of the press in this country was to create a composite nationalism. Instead of that, they are actually dividing us in the name of religion. They are giving sensational headlines. These are Bhagat Singh's words. Sensational headlines based on religious divisions, on sectarianism. So instead of creating composite nationalism of togetherness, they are actually creating nationalism which is divisive, which is dividing us. So this is a very irresponsible behavior of the press. So this is what Bhagat Singh writes in 1928. So you can imagine what the press is doing today, where the press has so many, press is diverse. It's not just print media, it's social media, it's television media, it's so many ways of communication, and all of them have become so dangerous in this country, so irresponsible, that we need to remember Bhagat Singh. And all those people who talk about him in the media, and I wrote some time back that they need to go back and learn some lessons in journalism from Bhagat Singh, whom they venerate so much in their writings, in their speeches, in their life, without learning what actually he left behind. So these are, another thing which is relevant in today's India, and especially for the young people like you, is the role of students in politics. He wrote one article, Students and Politics. Like today, for example, in our city, JNU, or any university anywhere, the one charge against students is that they come to the university to indulge in politics. No, university is for learning. First of all, the definition of university is absolutely forgotten, because university is not a place where you can't think independently, or you can't share your independent thoughts, or you can't raise your voice against injustice wherever it is happening. University is a place where you can do all that, and this is what Bhagat Singh is trying to write in this piece, that university is a space which teaches you to create a struggle against injustice, any injustice, anywhere happening in the country. So this is what, so if you talk of Bhagat Singh, you need to learn what Bhagat Singh left behind, what ideas he left behind. And he's not only saying that, he was, if you look at the life of Bhagat Singh and his associates, all of them were students. All of them were students, and all of them were doing politics. Now, some people say that it was actually a fight against the British. Bhagat Singh writes about that also. He says our struggle has to continue. Struggle against injustice has to continue without bothering about the rulers, whether they are white, or they are white and black, white and brown combined, or only brown, only black. Till injustice continues, our fight need to continue. So he was not only talking about fight against the British. The fight against injustice, fight against lawlessness of the rulers has to continue, whether it is purely Indian rulers or Indians and foreigners combined, or purely foreigners. So on this count also, he was very clear. So all those who raise these questions that he was talking about students fighting against the British, he was talking about injustice wherever it happens. So these are some ideas which Bhagat Singh left behind for us. This whole idea of nationalism he left behind for us, and these are things which we need to keep in mind. And unfortunately, we only talk about his martyrdom, which is fine, but we need to respect that. But more than that, we need to understand what Bhagat Singh stood for. For him, see, his imprisonment for 2 years was a time when he learnt. You see, why he became so intellectually aware at such a young age. All his associates, including Yashpal, Jitendra Sanyal, and many others, Shiv Varma, all of them testify that Bhagat Singh was never seen without a book. His mother, Vidyavati, is on record saying, actually rebuking Bhagat Singh, that what is this, you put so many books in your jacket pockets that they are all torn, and I have to actually stitch them all the time. So this is like, you will never see him without a book. And once one of their colleagues met him about 4 or 5 years later, and he said, what has happened to you? You are a very different person. So, the answer he gave, he said, it is only reading which made me different. And Yashpal writes about one episode. He said, no, Bhagat Singh's father had a little dairy business also, and Bhagat Singh was sometimes asked to carry milk to Lahore from the village, and he used to sit in the cart carrying milk, and while the cart was moving, he used to sit in the cart reading a book. So these are things which are associated with his life. How book was so important for him. Now, and he was doing this at a time when finding a book, a literature, the sort of literature he read, it was not very easy to find, because most of the books were banned by the British. So he had only 2 sources. One was Dwarkadas Library in Lahore, which was set up by Lal Lajpat Rai, and another was Ramakrishna and Sons, was a bookseller who had some connections of importing books from outside. So these were 2 sources. And the librarian of the book, Mr. Radhakant Shastri, once said, he was a socialist himself. He once told people that this Bhagat Singh, he reads book from beginning till end. He will never leave any book like from page 1 to the last. So that is how he reads. He takes extensive notes, which is we can find in the prison diary also, where he takes notes, etc. Lots of his other writings are not available. But this is what Shastri said as a librarian, that he actually takes notes extensively. So this is something which made Bhagat Singh, which gave him ideas. And another thing, what he read, and he was actually fond of films also. Like this is how he formed his ideas. Not only from books, from films, mostly English films in those times. Uncle Tom's Cabin was one of the favorite films he used to go and see. Chandrasekhar Azad, being someone who didn't have interests like Bhagat Singh, and they were very short of money. And so when Bhagat Singh wanted to go and see a film, and so he has to actually steal some money, keep it somewhere quietly. Many times Chandrasekhar Azad came to know, and they had some hot exchanges also. So this is the life Bhagat Singh led, his short life, and these were the sources of his intellectual awareness and his own idea of a nation and nationalism. So these books, which were not just books on one subject, if you look at the list which we now have from his prison diary, the books on economics, books on history, books on poetry, Rabindranath Tagore, Rumi. Rumi is a Persian poet, and so he read then like Tennyson, the whole poetry you can find, which he has quoted from the thing in his diary. So he had diverse interests in reading also, so which actually made what Bhagat Singh is, the understanding of the world. Despite all the restrictions, he could access this literature. And there used to be one Jaidev Gupta, who was from my city, Meerut. who was his very close friend, and they used to study together in National College, Lahore, and he used to go and meet him in the prison, and he was the one who used to supply books to him most of the time. So each time when he used to go, Bhagat Singh used to give him a list of 5 or 6 books, and which Jaydev Gupta was supposed to deliver. So books actually played a major role. Reading made a great role in what Bhagat Singh became. This is one lesson which we need to learn, at least young people. It's not only for the young, it's for everybody. There is no age for reading. So these are a few things which Bhagat Singh left behind. Unfortunately, we don't care to even understand what Bhagat Singh stood for, what were the ideals he left behind, what was the vision he left behind, and what sort of India he wanted to have. And that India is something which we are far away from that vision of his. We all know how far away we are, and we are not even moving in that direction anywhere close. We are actually moving away, unfortunately. Bhagat Singh's life in the end, and this is something which I want to remind you, like when he was almost few days before he was hanged, he wrote a long letter to the young, for the young people, and that letter came out from the prison, and in that letter he is talking about his vision of India, and he knew that he is going to die in 15 days, and he's in detail what sort of India he wants, what sort of message he wants to deliver to the young people, and what sort of battle they have to continue. Then the day he was dying, that is something we all know and you all must have heard, and I am just reminding you that his commitment, when the people came to take him for the gallows, what he said, he was reading a book on Lenin. Before he knew that he is dying. Like, why reading was so important for him? Despite the fact that he is going to die in few minutes, he still wants to read a book. He wants to finish a book on Lenin's life. And whatever he read in 2 years, he knew that he is not going to survive. He has to die. Why was he reading all this? He was reading because he knew that by reading only he can deliver a message for the young. He wrote longish letter, and if you read the prison diary and then you read "Why I'm an Atheist," or you read this message, the last message he sent to the people, and third thing he wrote was an introduction to a little book on poetry, Dreamland, by one senior revolutionary, other revolutionary, and that book on Dreamland, that introduction, is again very interesting. This poet, the other revolutionary, was a believer, and so when he came to Bhagat Singh and requested him to write an introduction, he said, "I respect you, but I am sorry, I don't believe in the idea of India you have. So what I write will be critical. And I don't want to be critical of a senior revolutionary like you." But he said, "No, you go ahead and write whatever you want to write." So that introduction also is something which he produced in prison. So these are three things, three main documents. One is "Why I'm an Atheist," another is the last 7-8 pages letter to the young Punjab, and third is this introduction to Dreamland. And then prison diary, the books he wrote and the notes he took. All these documents, if you read together, you will find out that "Why I'm an Atheist" is a piece of political writing which derives from the literature he read. You can see the link if you read both of them together. You can find the reflections of the literature he read, how he interpreted that, whether it is poetry or whether it is a political writing or economics. So he actually spent a life of scholarship. I am not claiming that he became a scholar. You can't say that, because he was hardly in his teens, in 23 years. But he had that vision of scholarship, which he took very seriously, and he left behind for us. So when we talk of nationalism, these are the ideals he left behind for us. His nationalism was not empty rhetoric. It was based on a certain vision, certain ideals which he had for the future India and for the young of India of those times. And if you do not read all this, and without reading, without understanding what Bhagat Singh wrote, what Bhagat Singh read, you cannot form any opinion about his political ideology or even his definition of nationalism. All that is possible only when you read what he wrote, whether he wrote on revolution or he wrote on religion. That is the two things mainly he wrote about. Because if you read his writings, you can find the evolution of the man. You know, he begins, when he is reading, he begins with anarchism. He writes 3 pieces on Bakunin, on anarchism, and then he evolves from anarchism to socialism. Some people say he came to communism. He didn't come to proper institutionalized communalism. He came to Marxism, because he had no time to actually. Lots of people raise this question with me, that why did he not join a communist party? It was formed in 1925, 26. First of all, he had no time to do that. No, he had no time for that. The point is, he was not formally part of any political party, left or right or whatever. But he was surely moving towards Marxism, and all his writings establish that he had a vision which was based on socialism, which was based on, he actually declares himself that he is a communist. He is moving towards creating communist society, and these are his words in many of his writings. And he defines revolution. You know, once there used to be a paper, journal used to come out from in Calcutta, where the editor Ramanand Chatterjee, who belonged to Hindu Mahasabha himself, he accused Bhagat Singh of anarchism. He questioned his revolution, and then Bhagat Singh gave a reply and defined his revolution, where he says that my revolution actually is not a revolution of bomb and pistol. My revolution is revolution in the realm of ideas. No? So, and then he goes on to say a few things, but the main core idea was that he deals with in the realm of ideas. His revolution actually is based on the ideas, not on bloodshed or killing of any human being. Because when we look at Bhagat Singh's life, look at this assembly bomb explosion, and I'm touching upon these things because they are all related to ideology again. Assembly bomb explosion again was inspired by his commitments as an ideologue, because he wanted to make the deaf hear, make the deaf British government hear his voice, which was not being heard otherwise, against the public safety bill, which was against the workers and peasants, because 1920s is a decade in Bombay's industrial area particularly, where lots of strikes were happening, lots of unrest was there, and Bhagat Singh believed that these bills which were being brought up in the assembly through ordinance, these bills are going to harm the interests of the workers and peasants, workers particularly. And that's how he went there and threw the bomb. Then many people, when I say this, ask me that if you believe that he didn't believe he didn't believe in violence, then why did he go and throw the bomb? So people don't realize that these bombs were, they set up an office in Agra in 1928 after he came from Calcutta. He brought Jatin Das to train because he was an expert in bomb making. They set up a library in Gimandi in Agra. That library had about 175 books on economics, history, bomb making and sociology, and all these books are lying in a malkhana in Lahore even now. And when I went to Lahore, I raised this issue, and lots of other people have raised it, that those books should be shifted to India. Now people were interested, why you have to actually keep them locked up in a malkhana? But this was a library he set up. And again, books were so important for him that it was an office which they created temporarily, and this is where they prepared these bombs which were used in 1929 assembly bomb on 8th April. And they were tested that the bombs should not harm anybody. They will only make noise and smoke. So they were, all those who believed that they went there to harm anyone, they were tested that they will not harm anyone. And and these are some interesting things which I shared with Sohail also a few days back. And like the day Bhagat Singh threw these bombs in the assembly, he met like Sukhdev told Durga Bhabi used to be Bhagwan Sharan Gora's wife and a revolutionary herself, and she was very close to Bhagat Singh. And so Sukhdev told Bhabi that you come from Lahore to Delhi if you want to meet Bhagat Singh, because maybe you will not be able to meet him again. And she came, Sushila Didi and Durga Bhabi. They met Bhagat Singh in Qusia Bagh, the place where I live in civil lines. It used to be a garden, it's a garden even now. And that's where they met for about an hour. Bhagat Singh was fond of two things, oranges and some sweets. And so she brought oranges and rasgullas, and Bhagat Singh ate all that. After that, and there's a record with the records in the archives, that within an hour they went to assembly and threw the bomb. This was the last meeting with Durga Bhabi. So this is one of the important places in Delhi which are associated with Bhagat Singh's life. We don't know exactly where, but it was Qusia Garden. So Bhagat Singh's life is based on reading, on intellectual awareness, and this is the legacy which he has left behind. He has left behind a legacy. He has left behind an idea of nationalism which is based on justice for all, across religion, across caste, across class. And these are his words which he has repeated again and again in many of his writings, that we have to imagine an India where when there is no discrimination in the name of religion, in the name of caste, in the name of community, in the name of class. All 98% Indians should have participation in governance. So this is the core idea of an India which Bhagat Singh left behind, and I believe that this is what we need to remember about him, not his martyrdom. We need to respect that, and we do respect, but if we confine ourselves to martyrdom alone, then we are actually doing injustice with him and with his legacy, with his martyrdom itself, because we are not taking the ideals of Bhagat Singh forward. And because Bhagat Singh was, you see, when we talk of martyrdom, Bhagat Singh was not alone. There were so many people who died before him, two others died with him. But why Bhagat Singh is so different? Bhagat Singh is different because Bhagat Singh was a man of ideas. No? He had a vision, he wrote, he left behind a legacy, which is a written legacy of his articles, not his books, but his articles and his essays. So all that should inspire us to follow the idea of nationalism which he left behind. Thank you.
You see, what I have gathered from this talk is essentially the idea that the nationalism that is being pushed these days is one kind of nationalism, and the nationalism that Bhagat Singh talks about is a totally different kind of nationalism. For the present propagators of nationalism, it is about land and its borders, and that's about it. And you are supposed to accept that, accept their definition of what a good patriot is, and you don't look at those who inhabit the land. It is the people who are the nation. The land is meaningless without its people. And if the condition of the people does not improve, it is the overwhelming majority of the people that are oppressed, that are divided, that fight among themselves, then there is no nation. And without looking at the people and engaging with the people, there is no nation. And that is one important thing to remember about Bhagat Singh. The other thing I think, which is, Irfan has again and again referred to that, is to read constantly, to ask questions constantly, and draw from all that you have learned to interpret your society, your world, and create a scientific outlook towards your world or the world that you want to make. In one of his writings, I forget which one, he is talking about an India that he envisages when the British have left. And he minced no words, he spoke. So he says we do not imagine an India where the white rulers will be replaced by brown rulers. We don't want Lord somebody to leave and Tej Bahadur Sapru to replace him. He was very clear. It is not this idea of those who have everything, who continue to benefit through the time of colonialism, who will continue and who will replace the colonial masters. He imagined a country where the people will have power. So he keeps on talking of the 98% have to be in power and not the 2% who control everything. And I think that, that is what one needs to remember about Bhagat Singh, and not Mera Rang De Basanti Chola, which is what they are trying to push down through our throats. If you have any questions, comments, you are welcome. And I just have to make two announcements which I had made in the beginning, but many friends have joined us a little late. A, that we are trying to start this on the dot at 5 o'clock. I know you travel from long distance, but you want to attend this, try to reach at 5. With every 15 days it's going to get colder. So the earlier you come, the earlier we finish, the earlier you will be able to go back. And time is important. And we are running out of time. So let's honor that. Let's try to do this on time. And please, all of you who have not left your contacts, please leave them here, because we are engaging in, SAHMAT engages in a whole lot of activities. Every 1st January we have a day-long program of music and of poetry and performances and films. This will be the 36th Sabda Memorial that will happen, and it happens here in the auditorium. So, and the other activities that we keep on organizing, so we would like to keep you informed. Whenever you can come and attend, please do. So leave your contacts here and leave some donation in that box. It doesn't mean that you have to stop coming because we are asking you for money. There is no fees. You are welcome to come anytime. But if you can make a small contribution, it will help us along. Thank you very much. Any questions? There was a, yes, there is a hand that was raised before you. Yeah, please. Yeah. Yeah.
Good evening, sir. So my name is I am a second year master's student from Tata Institute of Social Sciences. So, sir, my question is when we were talking about communism, there was one phrase Bhagat Singh didn't join the communist movement. But still, if we talk it in contemporary times, people still look it at that way, that he was a communist. Whenever they are talking about, they say that we have to talk about our ideal Bhagat Singh because he was a communist. I have heard a lot of phrases like that. So what's your take about it? Because I'm still in a learning phase about it, so I just want to know.
I don't think we need to associate theology because you can associate some ideas. He believed in socialist ideas. He believed in Marxism. He read a lot of socialist literature. He read today you have so many Marxisms. There is no one Marxism. In his times it was only Bolshevism and Marxism. These were two things. And so he had, first of all, his faith was in the welfare of the deprived, people on the margins. Whichever ideology supports him to take this battle forward, he stood for that. And he saw some hope in Marxism in those times. And lots of colonized world all over outside India also. Marxism was an ideology of struggle for them, for the deprived, for the oppressed. It may have lost that value today. For many it exists even now. But in those times, it was a battle which was being fought against colonization, and Marxism played a huge role in that. So for me, I don't think you need to see ideology anywhere. You need to see some ideas. You need to see the inspirations of Bhagat Singh, where they came. He was also inspired by Irish Revolution. Because Irish freedom fighters also inspired him. There were lots of Indian ideologies which affected his thinking.
Yes, so because after that split also happened between CPI and CPIM.
Yeah,
So
that comes in much later. Yeah.
So that's what I was asking.
Sure. Yeah.
Sir, my name is and I am a first year student of journalism. So in your writing, I already watch your lectures on Maulana Azad and read your article on Bhagat Singh as well. When in writing on both Maulana Azad and Bhagat Singh, you have shown how each imagined a secular, rational India but through opposite routes. While Maulana Azad rooted his politics in faith and universalist Islam, and Bhagat Singh rejected religion entirely as aberration. So yet both converged on the same idea of moral freedom and